Greetings once again, my friends, and it is once again time for 5 Question Friday. I did the last one of these back in October of last year, and I thought, what better time to do it another one than today? So, in my hands, I have 5 questions that I have obtained from viewers and from social media, and I will attempt to answer all 5 of them without taking up your entire afternoon. So, question number 1. I saw your Consolation Unwrapped video, thank you, and I was surprised that you opened these games. Don't you worry about losing value? No, I most certainly do not. My video game library, my video game collection is not really about value. It's not something that I'm looking to flip in the next 5 years or something when I'm dead that I'm expecting is going to be making a ton of money for my estate. The reason that I collect video games and I've put together this library is to have the opportunity to play them. And unfortunately, a game that is factory sealed or wrapped is not a game that I can play. So, I make every effort, whether it's buying a brand new game that's factory wrapped or whether it's a game that doesn't have a case or manual and is just disc only, kind of like SSX3 here, to play all of them, or at least spend a little bit of time with each of them. Having such a wide library of games gives me the opportunity to play pretty much whatever I want. My library is big enough now where I can play a different video game title every day for the next 3+ years. So I certainly have my fair share of games to sit around and play. I can never claim that I have nothing to do. Unfortunately, the problem becomes getting the time to be able to do all these things. Between going to school full-time and just getting older, I don't have the energy that I had 10, 15 years ago. But buying games and opening them on camera, I just think that opening them on camera is fun because I get to open something that's been sitting unopened for 10, 15, 20 years. And I think that that's a really cool thing. Thanks for the question. Question 2. What was the first video game you ever played? That one's easy for me because I'm an old man. I played Pong. My dad brought home one of those Pong consoles when I was 4 years old back in 1976. If my memory serves, we were living in South Hadley, Massachusetts at the time. My dad hooked it up to the TV, and I played it against my dad, and I won pretty consistently. I guess that's how I knew at a young age that video games and I were destined to be good buddies. And my love of video games just kind of grew from there. So Pong was the first video game that I ever played. The first video game console I got a chance to play that was like a legitimate video game console was the Atari VCS, which my maternal grandmother had. And then the first console that I had for myself was the NES back in 1990. Number 3, are you still streaming games or will you do so in the future? This is kind of a tough question. I have done video game streams in the past. I do have a PlayStation 4 in my office. I have streamed some pinball videos in the past, as well as some videos of me playing some of the Arcade Archives games. Like Mat Mania or Gradius or Karate Champ. The issue with streaming now is just free time. You probably have heard that I'm going back to school full time. I just started this week. So available free time just isn't what it used to be. The other issue, of course, is that living with family, me talking to my screen at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, sometimes tends to keep people up or makes them think that I'm a little insane because they don't know who I'm talking to. I do plan on doing more streams in the future, especially once I get situated back in school and I'm kind of used to the rigors of class and homework and such. I just don't have a lot of new games to stream. It's really going to just be a lot more pinball and the occasional Arcade Archives game if I can afford it. But streaming is in the future, just not in the near future, I don't think. Maybe this coming weekend. We'll see. Number 4. I am thinking about starting to collect games myself. Do you have some tips? I do. actually. The first tip I have is to understand what your budget is. Do you want to spend a lot of money on games? Do you want to just do something where you spend a little bit every month and gradually build your collection? You need to have a strategy first, both monetarily and in terms of how you want to add to the collection. And then the other thing I would recommend is, based on your budget, pick a system or systems that are affordable, where you can get more for your money. Right now, the Wii, the PlayStation 2, and the original Xbox happen to be games that are very affordable, and many of those games are still very playable today. I would also probably throw in there the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, although those tend to be a little bit more fragmented with downloadable content that either isn't available anymore or is still fairly expensive. Whereas games for the Xbox, for the PS2, for the Wii, those don't have a lot of downloadable content, if any at all. So the game that you're getting is going to be the same game that you'll be able to play until you can't play it anymore. Older systems like the NES, the Super NES, even the original PlayStation these days, those prices are starting to come up, which means that you need to have a little bit more money in your gaming budget, or you need to keep your eyes open for deals. Now, if you're myself, if you like sports games like I do, sports games are a dime a dozen. You can easily build a collection of 50, 60 games just with sports in general. But I'm thinking I'm the minority here. A lot of people don't like sports games as much as they do action-adventure games or RPGs. But keep in mind that those are going to tend to be a little more expensive. But those are some tips that I have. The other thing I would say is find a few independent video game stores in your area. I talked about this in episode 25. I have a few of them that are pretty local to me, places like Game Depot, like Video Game Castle, even a somewhat larger place like Retro Games Plus. Smaller independently owned places like Video Game Castle and Game Depot, sometimes once you've been in the store enough, sometimes you can gain a rapport and possibly get a deal here and there. Whereas a place like Retro Games Plus or other chains, they're more driven by prices in a computer and are less willing, or less able, I should say, to cut deals with you. So keep that in the back of your mind. But good luck to you in your collection adventure, and make sure you share your progress with me. I'd like to hear it. And last but not least, question number 5. Are you still doing writing? I guess I should really talk about this before too long. Last year, at around this time, a little bit later than this time, the Consoleation.com domain was bought for me as an early birthday present and as a little bit of motivation to do some writing and some self-promotion. Unfortunately, it's been a year, and the domain is about to expire, and because I'm back in school and I'm not working, I will not be renewing the domain, which means that probably the site is going to be going away. So writing for Consoleation.com will not be happening. However, I am still an active contributor with Retroware, and Retroware just brought on a few new writers, so they actually have a full schedule where there's going to be new content 5 to 6 days a week. And my role is every other Saturday, so it won't be this coming Saturday, which I think is the 30th, but it'll be the first Saturday in February, which will be when my article goes up. So you'll see 1 to possibly 2 articles from me on Retroware every month, and I think that's going to be the extent of it. Unfortunately, in my experience over the last year or so, traffic for written content, or demand for written content, has been declining at a pretty quick rate. People tend to prefer video content a bit more. That way they can play it in the background, especially my stuff, because I don't have any gameplay going on. It's more me talking to the camera. So it's almost like a live podcast of sorts. So people can take that on the go or listen to it when they're doing the dishes or taking a shower or whatever. Whereas with written content, you actually have to focus on it. You actually have to be reading it in the same room, whether it's on a tablet or on a computer. And it tends to be a little bit more limiting. I think I'm a better writer than I am a video personality, although I'm working on it. So I'm still going to do some writing, especially because I absolutely adore retroware and I want to see them continue to grow. And I think that them hosting written content is as important as hosting all of the video content that they do. But a lot of my creative focus, other than writing for retroware, is going to be based on delivering one or two Consolation related videos every week so that people will be able to check me out on the channel, and if they like what they see, maybe subscribe. We'll see what happens. As an aside, I don't know when it happened, but the channel just recently hit the 250 subscriber mark, which I am super proud of. It's certainly humbling, for sure, as someone who's just doing this as a hobby with no professional editing skills whatsoever. I suppose at some point, if I got video editing software, if I win the lottery, I would try and put a little bit more time into maybe splicing some gameplay footage in or putting music in or whatever. But I think that one of the appeals of this channel and what it is that I do is because it is so very raw and so unscripted, that it's just my thoughts kind of rolling out of my mouth, much like they do when I write. I don't do a lot of editing when I write, except to check for spelling or how a sentence winds up. It's more my thoughts pouring out on a piece of paper. So in the video format, the video sense, it is me pouring out my thoughts and memories as they roll off my brain, and I think that that's unique, if nothing else. Maybe annoying to some, and I know that the lack of edit certainly does bother some people, but I think that that's one of the appeals of the channel, and I hope that you'll continue to check that out. So those are the 5 questions for this time around. I guess I should try and do these once a month. So if you do have questions you want to ask me, feel free to leave them in the comments below. And if you do, I will put a list together and we will do this again in another month's time. I really do appreciate you checking out my YouTube channel. It does mean a lot to me. Thanks to all the subscribers, to all the viewers, and we'll do this again in a month. Until then, take care, everybody.